Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another round of Basis Picks. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now, I probably could have done it yesterday and then we maybe could have had some of the OTX fight card to talk about. I haven't seen any of it yet, so I will be checking that before tonight. I am looking to do a live stream for Richardson Hit versus George Kambosos Jr. Not the entire card. I will be out. I'll be traveling back from North London or somewhere in and around that region, so probably look to go live about 2 o'clock, 2:30, maybe catch the last two fights, maybe the last three, but yeah, we will be speaking about that card. There's only two fights that I'm actually gonna be talking about here, so this should be a fairly short video by comparison to some of the most recent ones, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, as I said, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thank you for all the new subscribers who have tuned into the channel, and yeah, I hope that you enjoy the content moving forward. But for now, let's get into the picks. Actually, I said two fights. I just remembered Nanito Daire is making his comeback today, or tonight I should say, and he's taking on Andreas Campos. Now, interesting, I remember Campos from when he fought Sonny Edwards. I was in attendance for that fight. Edwards beat him quite comfortably. I think on one of the scorecards it was a bit closer than I think any of us really sort of thought it should have been, so to speak, but he was good. Game come forward, 17-2-1 as his record. Nanito is like 42-8 or something like that. I think he's trying to come back for one more run at a world title. Look, I'll say good luck to Nanito. I still need to get him on the channel. Should have done it a year, 2 years ago. I will reach out to him and his wife Rachel to see if I can get him to come on one of the casual streams this week, next week or something like that. But I expect him to win. Look, he's not what he used to be. I think that's fair to say, but Campos isn't anything special. I mean, look, his game, he'll come forward, he will sort of try to win, but he's pretty limited, and I think just that left hook of Nanito's is enough that will basically keep Campos holstered, keep him pocketed, and ultimately put him on the canvas and keep him there. I'm thinking between rounds 7 to 9. Anything other than that, I'll be very surprised, but you know, anything can happen. But that's my prediction: Nanito Daire to win via stoppage, rounds 7 to 9. Okay, so look, moving on to the fight card that's taking place at Madison Square Garden, the Hulu Theatre. I know the other day I heard that tickets weren't moving too well. I think there's about 5,600, 6,000 tickets you can get for the Hulu, maybe up to 7. And from what I heard, there was maybe only 16,000 to 2,000 tickets that had been sold. Hopefully that has now increased a little bit, especially after the antics over the last couple of days with the press conference and the weigh-in and everything. I would expect maybe 3,500 to get in there. 4,000 would be a good result, so I guess we'll wait and see what kind of happens with that. Look, the undercard, there's a lot of names I'm interested in looking at. I definitely want to take a look at Adam Maka, you know, who's 18 years old, one of the Leo Watang and the Mia Ayton crop that have come up recently, so I'll definitely be keen to see how he does on his Matchroom debut. Nishant Dev on his second fight for Matchroom, I'll be looking to see what he does. Zaquin Moses, another fight against Carl Rogers, I believe he's taking on. You know, is another sort of young up-and-comer that I've got keen eyes on. I think Zaquin is a really good young forward. You know, well, I'll say contender. He's definitely a prospect, but I feel like he will definitely be a contender within, say, a year and a half, 2 years. Terra Moana, look, I don't know anything about Aleem Whitfield apart from he had a professional fight, his last round of professional fights in 2015, and then came back to 2 fights last year, both of which he actually won by DQ up at heavyweight. So I don't know what happened in between those you know, those 8-9 years when he was not practicing as a heavyweight. I mean, even as a professional boxer, I should say, who knows. But Again, it's an intriguing fight. He's got all the grit and the menace and the mean mugging, but let's see what he can do in the ring. Terma 1 looks 7-0, 7 KOs, all of which I don't think any fight's gone past the third round, I believe, which they should when you're kind of in that building phase. But Olympian, I guess we'll have to wait and see sort of what he does. But I want to talk about Andy Cruz versus Hironori Mashiru. Now, I've not seen a huge amount of Mashiru, but he is, he's obviously 17-1-1, not the biggest of punchers, and that may play into Andy Cruz's favor, because I believe if the two of them get into a quote-unquote boxing match, I think Andy Cruz will win that all day and night. Even though Mashiru he's definitely got the height and the range and the length aspect there. So I think the biggest problem for Cruz to figure out is how to get inside the range safely and how to stay inside the range safely as well. It also means he's probably going to have to trade quite a bit on the inside, keep the defenses up to, try not to take anything silly that could ultimately sort of, maybe high on the head, equilibrium, mess up the legs, etc. But Mashiru he's been in there with some really good some really good level talent. Masayuki Ito comes to mind, Teyuno Watanabe, if people know these names, Hinato Maruta in his previous fight. He's got some decent wins on the record. He's not ever been up at that world stage, neither has Andy, but obviously Andy has the huge amateur pedigree which kind of puts him into that position. This is the final eliminator for the IBF title to face Raymond Muatayo as the next mandatory challenger. So I'm going ballsy on this. I do think when it comes to the speed, I think Andy Cruz is definitely going to have the speed advantage. I think Mashiru will obviously try to keep the range. I don't think he's going to try to go on the inside and make it a sort of a brutal and a come forward fight, although I think that would actually be his best chance to win. I think he's going to try to keep it on the outside to use his advantages of his height and his length, and try to keep the fight on the outside. But I do see from about second or third round Andy Cruz figuring out how to get into that pocket, how to adjust, how to throw out the feints enough, get Mashiru to bite on those feints, and ultimately start to rack up highlight reel rounds where so you get some really flashy shots coming through. Now, from what I've seen and heard, Mashiru seems to have a very good chin. He's very durable. He's gone the distance on several occasions. So Cruz has definitely got to be very economical with the energy reserves, especially in the first half of the fight. It's best to sort of be with him, be competitive, maybe win the rounds closely early, and then use your energy to sort of try to take it away towards the back half of the fight when your opponent starts to get a little bit more tired and a little bit more defensively lapsed as well. And I do think that Andy won't be too much of a front runner. He's definitely started to develop outside of that amateur I must win 3 rounds style which he had in his very first fight, and he seems to be able to last the pace quite well. So my opinion is that I think Cruz is gonna start off a little bit slower. He's gonna get the range. He will sort of be winning the rounds just about in the first couple, but then I think he's gonna get into his rhythm. He's gonna try to go and dig away on the inside, and every time Mashiru is trying to exit out of the pocket, he'll probably get caught with something, get put into a position where he's now got to either throw or he's got to get his hands up, and that will allow Andy to get back in range to cut that distance. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of body work and a lot of headshots, especially sort of in those mid rounds. And I'm going to go out on a bold pick here. I do think that Cruz will win. I don't think that's going to be a particular problem, but I think that between rounds 9 and 11, the corner will probably look to stop the fight and I think he'll either be pulled out on his stool, or I think the ref may decide to waive off the fight. Not even maybe because he's taking absolute, you know, damage and punishment and he's wobbly all over the place, but I think maybe there just might be too much shots being taken and not defended, not really responding to, and then they just kind of basically protect him for another day. So I am going to give this one to Cruz, and I do think it will be a stoppage victory, and I'm going somewhere between rounds 9 to 11 for that to occur. Okay, so look, main event, we've got Richardson Hit against George Kambosos Jr. All right, in a nutshell, I'm going to say this. Richardson Hit comparably has very much a style similar to Devin Haney. The difference is Devin Haney is a lot more likely to try, especially when he was like, I guess the bigger 135 guy, would try to sort of get on the inside and finish opponents and be a bit aggressive. He's definitely a pure boxer, but he does have some elements of being a boxer puncher, unfortunately just not having the punch ever since 2019 and that shoulder surgery. Richardson Hit has never been a person that's tried to be that knockout artist. He's always, you know, he will go in there, he'll, you know, if he gets the opportunity, he'll try to take you out, but ultimately he's more about, I'm gonna box smart, I'm gonna box safe, I'm gonna keep my O, and then we're gonna go on to the next one. So this fight particularly, I think he will try to deviate from that a little bit. He's, you know, the criticism of the Zepeda fight, the Lemos fight, where he didn't, you know, really sit down on the shots and sit in the pocket and trade and try to get his opponent out. The Bowser fight, where he had Bowser down, I think twice, and didn't step on the gas to press the action to finish him. I think being that George Kambosos is not a natural 140 pounder, he is a 135 guy that's come up, and even at 135 he wasn't one of the bigger guys either. I think that Richard is going to try to put on a show. Now, there's dangers there, because while George Kambosos isn't a great fighter as such, he's been in there with a lot of great fighters, so he can draw some inspiration from that. There are some of those fights he's been able to learn from, and ultimately in this bout, because he's not a natural 140 pounder per se, but he's not cutting down the extra 5 pounds, he definitely will be the fresher. Richardson Hit is the bigger guy of the two, and obviously having to adhere to that rehydration clause of the IBF is always a problem unless he gets a unification in his next bout. I could definitely see him trying to move up after this, so it'd be either unification or he's moving up to 147. I can feel it. But I do think that ultimately what worked for Devin Haney in his first 2 fights against George Kambosos is what will work for Richardson Hit. He's the taller guy, he's the rangier guy, he's got a better jab, he's got good footwork, he won't bite on the feints for George Kambosos, and even though Cambosus will be active early, I just don't think he's got anything for Hitchens. The only way that George Kambosos can even be competitive in this fight, as far as I can see, based on his last several fights especially, is to be absolutely filthy, nasty, dirty. We're talking stepping on the foot, shoulder tackles towards the ropes, like throw it, you know, getting the head on the chest, trying to hit low to stop the movement, to stop the legs, like hit to the hips, rabbit punches around the back of the head, kidney punches. Like, I'm talking the way that he has to be able to slow Hitchens down and make it into basically a dogfight to be able to get anything out of this. Now, there's a potential that he might be able to do some of that. It depends on the referee, how long he will let certain things slide. But the way I see it, unless he can really just upset the rhythm and turn it into a street fight from early, there's no real other chance that he wins this. Hitchens is not gonna go chasing him like Teofimo Lopez did to get dropped, and I feel like Hitchens is obviously he's a naturally bigger version of Devin Haney, in terms of the way that he fights, and we saw exactly how easy Devin Haney dealt with Kambosos. You know, the sort of the spear versus the swordsman, and he will be able to keep Kambosos on the end of that spear every single time that Kambosos tries to come inside. So I can't see many ways that George Kambosos wins this, apart from being extremely dirty and risking getting DQ'd. My only thought is whether or not he will get pulled out of this fight towards the middle to late rounds. I think that if he's taking a beating from round 6, 7, 8, and he's just not landing anything, he's like 7-1 down on the scorecards, or 6-2 down, or even 8-0 down after 8. I think by the time you get to rounds 9, 10, 11, they probably will look to pull him out of the fight. I don't think that they will let him stay in there and just take a 12-round beating just because he's not got dropped or not really got rocked, especially if he's so far down on the cards that he can't come back and win, because they know that he's not a one-punch KO artist. They know that he's not really a knockout artist like that. So I think just for his own safety, that would probably be the move. So I am going ballsy on this one, and I am predicting a Hitchens stoppage, and I'm predicting it around about sort of the 9th or the 10th round, or by any point where George Kambosos can no longer realistically win the fight on points. That's, again, bearing in mind this is based on him I guess not being able to be dirty, rough, rugged, and from early doors. But we'll see. I mean, there could be a chance he could have win some of the first early rounds, and then they take inspiration from that and they let it go the distance. But I don't see Hitchens being able to hit him with anything clean, concussive, to the like how Lomachenko did, the flurries that just he can't take all the shots and it eventually has to wilt. But I do see a scenario, like I said, if he gets enough work in there and it's just clear that these rounds are just getting racked up and he's just taking a beating round after round, maybe a cut opens up or something, I can see them pulling him out just as to save him from himself. So that is my prediction. I am going with Richardson Hitchens to win via rounds 9 or 10, TKO, referee stoppage, corner stoppage, something like that. Let me know what you guys think down below. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the watch along later, whatever time I decide to roll it. But for right now, it's Basis Picks locked.